My parents intentionally missed my wedding because I got married before my perfect sister. Now their carefully constructed family image is finally crumbling. My husband and I, both 32, tied the knot 8 months ago after being together for years. Everyone attended the wedding except for my sister Milan, 30, and my parents. My parents' decision to skip the event was startling, though I wasn't entirely shocked by Milan's absence, as we've never truly gotten along. However, given our history, I should have seen it coming. Dynamics. I can't entirely fault my parents for consistently favoring my sister over me. Throughout her life, she's been exceptionally good at nearly everything. She commanded attention in every room she entered. From the moment she could walk, she excelled in every spelling bee, science fair, and talent show in elementary school. Class president, valedictorian, and prom queen were all titles she claimed in high school. Tall, slender, and attractive. She even pursued modeling during college before focusing on her business degree. She landed her first modeling job in her sophomore year, and I still remember the celebration. To commemorate it, my parents hosted a lavish party, inviting all our relatives and her friends. Her first professional headshot was framed and hung in our living room, directly above the fireplace where it remains to this day. That same year, I earned my computer science degree. They merely offered a lukewarm well done before resuming plans for Molin's next photo session. In securing a position at a prestigious company, she swiftly climbed the corporate ladder. At 30, she already holds a corner office and a company car, making her a senior executive. Meanwhile, I work as a mid-level software developer for a reputable computer firm. While I'm content with my job, it's not the kind of career that makes parents boast to the family. Additionally, I'm curvier and shorter than my sister. Growing up, my mother would make disparaging comments about my appearance, enrolling me in unwanted workout classes and constantly putting me on diets. She'd say, "Melaine never struggles with her weight, or you could look as nice as your sister. If you just put in a little more effort." Though I learned to disregard these remarks by high school, they left their mark. Over the years, I've come to terms with these differences. I ultimately accepted that my parents would never take as much pride in my achievements as they did in Molin's. What choice did I have? For years, I tried to earn their approval by taking classes they suggested, joining clubs they encouraged, and even briefly attempting modeling, a failure my sister never lets me forget. Yet nothing was ever enough. I was simply the second daughter, and they were completely captivated by my sister's successes. Sometime in my mid-20s, I stopped trying to impress them. I focused on building my own life, advancing professionally on my own terms, and forming connections with people who valued me for who I am. To be honest, things improved after that, knowing my parents were always preoccupied with maintaining appearances. I kept our interactions superficial to avoid conflict during our obligatory Christmas dinners and family gatherings. I'd nod and smile while they raved about Molin's latest job, partner, or vacation. Since they had Molin to dote on, they didn't seem to notice my emotional distance. Then, at a computer conference, I met my husband through a mutual friend. He truly saw me, unlike my family. He appreciated my dry sense of humor, my coding abilities, and yes, even my body type. From the very beginning, he never once suggested I change or compared me to anyone else. He proposed to me after 4 years of dating at home while we were enjoying takeout and our favorite TV show in the background. It was perfect. Naturally, I told my parents I was engaged last year. Their reaction should have been my first clue. There were no congratulations, just an unsettling silence. My mother then questioned if I was certain I wanted to rush into marriage, and suggested I might want to improve my physique before the wedding. My father barely spoke. At our engagement party, my husband noticed their peculiar behavior, which I was too overwhelmed to fully grasp at the time. They huddled over my mother's phone in a corner for most of the evening. My husband later told me he overheard them talking to Molin on the phone. She was clearly upset. They were discussing how this wasn't the plan and how they never expected Rebecca to get married first. From what he vaguely heard, there were also some minor hitches during the wedding planning. Despite not even being engaged yet, My mother had already created numerous wedding Pinterest boards for Milan and showed no interest in helping me choose a dress or venue. When I selected my dress, a simple yet elegant aligned gown that made me feel beautiful, my mother merely remarked that it was practical and suitable for my figure. My future mother-in-law, who treated me like the daughter she never had, ended up assisting with most of the preparations. My husband and I meticulously reviewed and double-checked the guest list to ensure no one was overlooked before sending out both electronic and paper wedding invitations. I'm certain my parents received theirs because the electronic invitations included read receipts. After realizing they had an RSVP'd, I called, texted, and emailed them multiple times. My messages were either ignored or met with evasive responses about being very busy and needing to check their schedules. I couldn't dwell on it too much as I was swamped with wedding preparations. My in-laws were incredibly supportive, offering help with everything from seating charts to floral arrangements. Even at the lovely bridal shower hosted by my husband's sister, the painfully obvious absence of my own family was never mentioned. Even without my parents there, the wedding day itself was beautiful. We had a relaxed afternoon celebration after a morning ceremony in a garden setting. Everyone was right when they said we looked so happy and in love. But there were moments when their absence felt like a physical ache, like seeing the empty front row seats or during the father-daughter dance, which I couldn't have. After the honeymoon and wedding, I sought answers. When I finally reached them on the phone, they claimed they were deeply hurt because they had never received a formal invitation. My mother launched into a lengthy tirade about my carelessness, how she had always wanted to help organize her daughter's weddings, and how she couldn't fathom why I would exclude them from such a significant occasion. I was confused by this, as I was positive we had sent them both types of invitations. During the call, I confirmed we had indeed sent them by checking our records. Even the physical invitation's delivery was confirmed. I didn't confront their attempts to gaslight me. I simply apologized for the error and hung up. Later, my husband pointed out several incidents that revealed their true intentions. The way they seemed surprised rather than delighted when we announced our engagement, or how they continuously found excuses not to help with the wedding planning. He hadn't mentioned these observations earlier because he didn't want to add to my stress during the wedding preparations. But in retrospect, the pattern was clear. The idea that I, the less successful daughter, was marrying before their beloved Milan was too much for them to bear. Their behavior simply confirmed what I had always suspected but resisted, that I would never be able to compete with my sister in their eyes. The most disheartening part was realizing that even my wedding day, which should have been a celebration of love and new beginnings, became another battleground in their endless war to maintain their ideal family image with Milan at its core. Milan recently got engaged to someone she's been seeing for a year. According to family members I spoke with in family group chats, which I don't participate in, my parents are openly expressing their excitement about planning an elaborate wedding for her. They're already boasting about securing upscale venues and luxury gowns. And my mother is taking Milan to private fittings at exclusive boutique Sol, the mother-daughter time I was denied. Interestingly, a significant number of our relatives are now declining to attend Milan's wedding and engagement party. My parents' actions at my wedding apparently became a major topic of family discussion. When they ask why my parents didn't attend my wedding, I simply tell them what I believe to be true. They couldn't bear it when I married before their cherished daughter. I present the facts as I perceive them, without exaggeration or seeking sympathy. My parents contacted me a few days ago, accusing me of deliberately trying to sabotage Milan's wedding. They claim that the relatives they've spoken to are finding excuses to avoid attending any of her wedding-related festivities. My cousin, to whom my sister confided, informed her that people are reluctant to come because they've heard about my parents' treatment of me. My parents insist that I'm spreading false stories because I'm envious of my sister's upcoming lavish wedding. The problem is, I'm only telling people the truth about what happened. Perhaps they should reflect on their own conduct instead of blaming me for the consequences. If the truth makes them look bad, that's on them. As things continue to unfold, I'm finding it increasingly difficult to maintain the pretense of a relationship with my parents. Their behavior during my wedding finally made it unequivocally clear that I would never be enough for them, no matter what I did. Their absence at my wedding is no longer the hardest part. It's coming to terms with the fact that I never had the kind, supportive parents I always longed for. I'm focusing on building a life with someone who genuinely appreciates me for who I am right now. But I'll keep you updated if anything significant changes. It's been 2 weeks since my last post, and a lot has happened. After reading your encouraging comments, I finally decided to confront my parents face-to-face about their actions at my wedding and their current accusations that I'm ruining my sister's special day. When they started texting me about their tarnished family history, my parents quickly began making accusations during our phone call, claiming I was jealous of Milan and had orchestrated the entire situation. I did something I had never done before. I agreed with them, but not in the way they expected. Instead of defending myself as I usually would, I told them, "You're right. I'm envious. Not of Molin's career, not her accomplishments, not her appearance. I'm envious of the unwavering love and support you've shown her, which you never even bothered to show me." There was a pause on the line. My mother then started claiming I was exaggerating and that they had always treated us equally. Something broke inside me at that moment. Feelings that had been suppressed for years came flooding out. I reminded them of every birthday, when Molin's latest success overshadowed my own achievements, how my mother canceled my high school graduation dinner because Molin had a modeling callback, how her prom dress cost more than a year of my college textbooks. I continued, despite my father's attempts to cut me off by accusing me of exaggerating. I spoke about how it felt to watch them spend years planning my sister's hypothetical wedding while showing no interest in my own. I told them how painful it was to see my parents' seats empty and how my mother-in-law had to help me with everything from wedding preparations to dress shopping.
Ow.
Their reaction was telling. Instead of accepting any of my arguments, they turned it back on me. "Why did you never speak up if you felt this way?" my mother insisted, as if I hadn't tried to talk to them for years. My father went on to say that by discussing these emotions with our family members, I was being unfair and spiteful. My mother then said something that ultimately clarified everything. "We always knew you were insecure about her success, but we never imagined you'd go to such lengths as to try to ruin Molin's wedding out of spite. This is not how we raised you." I realized they couldn't even hear me. They believed that their behavior and my emotions had nothing to do with the entire situation. It was all about Molin's reaction. They were more concerned about her upcoming nuptials than the hurt they had caused me, even during this discussion about their absence from my wedding. I didn't try to smooth things over. For the first time in my life, I didn't retract or apologize. Instead, I expressed my thoughts to them directly. "You're right on one point. I was raised by you. You instilled in me the belief that I would never measure up, that Molin's accomplishments would always be more significant than mine, that upholding your ideal family image was more essential than my feelings. However, you also taught me that I deserve better than this, which was something you didn't mean to teach me." There was a long pause before my father spoke. He spoke in a cool, collected tone. "Maybe it's time for us to stop acting like we're bad parents, since you've already decided that we are, and you obviously take pleasure in seeing us suffer. Since you are family, we assumed you would help resolve this issue, but it's clear that you've made your own decisions." The final blow was delivered by my mother. "Perhaps you simply couldn't cope with not being the center of attention, even though we always tried to treat you both fairly. Rebecca, that's not our fault. You chose to play the victim." I refrained from arguing. Why would it matter? Everything I had been saying had just been validated by them. They were unable to admit their involvement in anything, even at this last discussion. I just hung up and said goodbye. I was surprised to feel relieved after the call. Tears were shed, to be sure, but they weren't the frantic, heartbreaking ones I remembered from my early years. They were liberating tears. For the first time, I had expressed everything I needed to say without holding back or feeling guilty about how I felt. Later, my husband saw me gazing at the sunset from our back porch. He sat next to me and grasped my hand without saying anything. "They're never going to change, are they?" I asked him after a time. "No, but you have," he said, squeezing my hand, "and that is what counts." He is correct. I've changed. The young child who frantically tried to win her parents' approval is no longer there. The woman who emerged from that last conversation no longer needs their validation. Although acknowledging that my parents will never be the people I need them to be is painful, it is not as painful as clinging to hope that they would change. For the first time, I don't really care what happens with my sister's wedding or the family drama. I've had my say, and they now have to deal with whatever comes next. The most peculiar aspect? I feel as though a burden I've carried my entire life has finally been lifted. Although it's not the happy ending I had hoped for with my parents. Perhaps it was the one I needed, the ability to stop striving for love. That ought to have come naturally. 3 days have passed since my confrontation with our parents, and things have taken a surprising turn. Milan decided to get involved in the drama, but her strategy backfired horribly. My sister sent me a carefully crafted message yesterday morning. Her condescending tone, developed over the years, was evident in her text. What you said to your parents was totally inappropriate. They have helped us through every stage of our lives and given us everything. Cannot simply blame them for being poor parents because you are insecure about the decisions you have made in life. She continued the message with her typical blend of moral superiority, subtle jabs. I understand that your wedding wasn't exactly what you had envisioned, but that doesn't mean you should try to destroy mine. There's nothing wrong with wanting a celebration that honors those of us who have put in a lot of effort to meet specific standards, Rebecca. Not everything needs to be a contest. I didn't bother to respond. I've learned that engaging with her only provides her with more ammunition. After years of enduring her manipulative behavior, I simply blocked her number instead. Milan has never been one to tolerate being ignored, so I assumed that would be the end of it. My husband, laughing so hard he couldn't speak, called me at work a few hours later. Milan was apparently unable to reach me directly, so she somehow got his personal number, likely from a mutual friend, and proceeded to bombard him with texts detailing why our sisterly relationship had always been strained. She began her initial communication to him in a sufficiently professional manner. As Rebecca's sister and someone who cares deeply about our family's well-being, I feel compelled to reach out. However, it soon revealed her true motivations. She informed my husband that he had an obligation to help me behave in a more suitable manner, because he was the new man in Rebecca's life. The messages became increasingly patronizing. Family dynamics are complex, she told my husband, professional software architect with an MBA, adding that someone with Rebecca's sensitivity might not understand the bigger picture. She advised him to help me see reason before I irreparably harm family relationships. Her attempt to play on what she believed to be his social climbing impulses was the real kicker, though. In fact, she wrote, "Surely you understand that. Maintaining good relationships with successful family members like myself could be beneficial for your future. Rebecca's behavior is only hurting her own prospects, and by extension, yours." Having always been able to see through Molin's facade, my husband found her attempt at manipulation humorous. He particularly enjoyed her presumption that her business rank or the prospect of networking opportunities would somehow impress him. In his own words, "She really doesn't know me at all, does she?" We went over the messages together when I got home that night. I was laughing with my husband instead of feeling offended or upset, seeing Molin's deceptive methods exposed, particularly when they were aimed at someone who was totally impervious to them, was liberating. I learned something significant about my sister as a result of this encounter. Despite all her achievements and success, she is still that insecure adolescent who needs to tear others down in order to feel superior. It's clear how little she knows about healthy relationships that she believed she could control me by manipulating my husband. When her direct approach failed, she swiftly resorted to trying to use my husband against me, which was the most revealing aspect. She used to do precisely that. In high school, she attempted to turn my friends against me when she was unable to bully me directly. Right. Different decade. Same strategies. With this fresh perspective, I now understand how Molin's actions went beyond simple sibling rivalry. Throughout our early years, she made a concerted effort to maintain her status as the favorite child, constantly telling our parents and me how much better she was. She had to overshadow whatever I accomplished. She had to point out my shortcomings to everyone I befriended. My response to her games is different now. Her messages would have caused me to fall into self-doubt 10 years ago. I would have been upset and hurt 5 years ago. Today, simply put, I'm sick of the drama and find her blatant attempts at manipulation amusing. My husband's response was ideal. Rather than becoming embroiled in her drama, he merely responded, "Thank you for your concern about Rebecca's well-being. As her husband, I'm focused on supporting her happiness, not managing her behavior. I think it's best if you direct any future concerns to Rebecca directly. Have a nice day." Molin sent one last message after not receiving the desired response. "I see she's poisoned you against the family too. Don't say I didn't try to help when this all blows up in your faces." Ironically, Molin's attempt to assist has further strengthened my resolve to keep my distance from the destructive dynamics of my family. Nothing has changed, as evidenced by her messages to my husband. She is still the same cunning individual, who feels the need to dictate every narrative, and who perceives any deviation from her ideal family script as a threat. Knowing that her attempts at persuasion were so totally unsuccessful is perhaps the most pleasant aspect of the entire incident. She succeeded in bringing my husband and I closer together rather than causing us to drift apart. Totally unconcerned by her fears of social repercussions, we joked about her texts and planned a weekend trip during the evening. I've come to understand that true family isn't about upholding facades or dictating stories. It's about standing together, laughing together, supporting one another when someone tries to manipulate you, even your own sister. I'm more certain than ever that I'd be better off keeping a safe distance from Molin's wedding drama instead of getting sucked into my family's never-ending power struggles. My husband and I have made the decision to concentrate on creating our own happiness. Success is said to be the best form of retaliation, but I'm coming to realize that real success isn't about impressing people. It's about accepting your decisions and surrounding yourself with individuals that encourage rather than impede your own development. I feel more successful than ever by that metric. 2 weeks after my sister's unsuccessful attempt to control my husband, things have taken unanticipated turns. The situation is worsening despite my parents' desperate attempts to repair their reputation. I found out through family connections that my parents have been on a frantic mission to control the narrative. They've been calling each relative separately, accusing me of spreading malicious tales because I'm envious of Molin's ideal wedding. They claim that I'm just resentful since her wedding will be far more sophisticated and gorgeous than mine was. According to their most recent fabricated story, I deliberately excluded them from my wedding so I could play the victim. It's amusing that they still reside in the same home they've owned for 30 years and have had the same email addresses since the invention of email. Yet they're claiming I sent their invitation to an old email address and an old physical address. The good news is that their attempts to limit the damage are failing miserably. Our family members don't believe it. In fact, a number of relatives have shared their personal accounts of my parents' history of partiality. According to one aunt, my mother had previously engaged in similar antics at family weddings in an effort to ensure that Milan was the center of attention. The way my extended family has reacted to my parents' manipulation is the most fulfilling development. Important family members, some of whom were expected to have significant roles in the event, have withdrawn their support for Milan's wedding. They may no longer have access to the exclusive venue they were able to secure through family connections. Even a family friend's luxury garment business has unexpectedly experienced scheduling conflicts. At a family gathering last weekend, things reached a breaking point. It seems that when someone innocently inquired about my wedding pictures, my mother became agitated. Out of apparent jealousy, she launched into a defensive tirade about how I had changed after getting married and was attempting to destroy the family. Her tantrum backfired, stunning a number of relatives who were unaware of the circumstances and further damaging their carefully maintained reputation. It's especially ironic that my parents' frantic efforts to preserve their ideal family facade are the very reason it's falling apart. Each time they attempt to justify their absence from my wedding, they end up revealing more about who they truly are. People are becoming more aware of their deception the more they try to portray me as the bad guy. Family members are now picking sides after previously remaining impartial. Recently, even my father's brother, who had always kept silent to maintain harmony, apologized for not speaking up sooner. about how they treated me. He has decided not to attend any of Molin's wedding-related festivities with his family. I don't have to address any of this explicitly, so I haven't. The truth is handling everything for me. Milan and my parents always end up revealing more of their destructive conduct when they attempt to twist the narrative. It turns out that all those years of remaining silent and enduring their treatment in an effort to keep the peace was really just a way of enabling their actions. My husband said it best. They constructed a facade of the ideal family over many years, but it was based on emotional manipulation and partiality. Eventually, it was going to fall apart. I'm doing better than ever personally. I no longer have to worry about attempting to win my parents' approval. The stress of managing Molin's emotions has subsided. I'm not concerned about upholding their ideal family image for the first time in my life. Sometimes the best retaliation is just letting the truth speak for itself rather than taking action. I'm grateful to Reddit for giving me the courage to advocate for myself. You have no idea how much your guidance and encouragement have meant to me along this path. Sometimes you need to see what true family support looks like from strangers you met online. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.